Hey everybody, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome to Turner Classic Movies. I am joined by a guest that I've been hoping to have for quite some time, Bruce Springsteen. Bruce, welcome.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Bruce has a new film out, Western Stars, which you co-directed.
Yes, but I would say my direction credit is at the grace of Tom Zinmi, who is with us today. In that I didn't get anywhere near a camera, but we collaborated on the whole thing together, and so.
Was directing a picture something that you had wanted to do for some time?
No. Basically, I'm satisfied being a musician. That takes enough of your time and dedication and attention, but love films since became a bit of a film buff in my mid and late 20s. And Tom and I collaborate very closely on what the film is going to be and how it's going to play out. So he graciously gave me a directing credit.
When you say you became a film buff in your 20s, what were the movies that informed you?
Well, initially started out with Grapes of Wrath. That was a big picture for me. And when I was younger, I sort of drew all my inspiration from pop radio, top 40 radio. By the time I was 25, I sort of was running dry on that a little bit, so I was looking elsewhere for artistic direction and inspiration, and I just started to look into books and films. But The Grapes of Wrath was the first thing that really struck me really deeply and ended up being a big part of the way that I would approach my own work thematically and somewhat visually also.
The movie we're about to show, by the way, is The Searchers, hence the relevance of that conversation, The Grapes of Wrath. John Ford's movies, in addition to Grapes of Wrath, mattered to you.
I saw a lot of those in the late 70s and early 80s. I really went through most of his canon, and it all rang for me. He used that same acting ensemble of characters, and The Searchers, of course, stood out as, I think it's one of the greatest pictures ever made myself, you know. You have Ward Bond, who I was a big, huge Ward Bond fan, along with John Wayne. And John Wayne is filmed probably as beautifully in that film as in anything he's ever done. And he plays an incredibly dark character for Ford Western. And there was just something about, you had the two separate poles. You had this radical individualist played by John Wayne, who yet at the same time spends the entire film attempting to reconstruct the community and a family. So the tension between those two things was enormous. And it was something I really related to when I was very young, because I was feeling both ways. I was writing all this music that was sort of about community and home and yet myself at the time, I felt very sort of out there on my own, you know. So the picture really hit home for me, and I've carried it with me ever since.
You talk about this in your film, in Western Stars, this sort of basic pull that we all have to strike out on our own, to not have anybody tell us what to do or how to act, but this desire still to be part of a community, to be part of a family.
It's natural when you're young, you know. When you're young, individual freedom is all there is. And as you're shaping your personality and as you're shaping your identity, I think that definition of freedom and that kind of freedom is very important to you. And it was important to me well through my 20s, you know. But I think as you get older, your definition of freedom has to expand to include partners and lovers and family and your civic life. And it's just essential if you want to lead a full life. So Western Stars is sort of about that journey. But it's one that everybody has to take. Everybody takes in their own way.
The idea of a Western star who's lost some degree of celebrity and is still trying to find his way is the core of Western Stars. It includes this line, which I would certainly be remiss without mentioning. Toward the end of the song, he says, "Once I was shot by John Wayne." Yeah, it was toward the end. That one scene's bought me 1,000 drinks. Set me up and I'll tell it for you, friend. I mean, that is...
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's a good song, and the detail and that I got in that song really, it's probably my favorite song on the record.
Bruce, thanks very much. Let's take a look at the film. Here it is, from 1956, with John Wayne, John Ford's The Searchers.